The story starts with a girl who rushes home to play her favorite video game. Suddenly, a truck appears and she gets run over. She finds herself in the body of a princess and immediately collapses on the floor, causing the servants to panic and scramble for help. We learn she has been reincarnated into the game as the evil Princess Pride, who serves as the final boss. Her character's role is to bring about the downfall of the country in 10 years by committing atrocities until the protagonist ends her reign of terror. As she lies on her bed, her father, the prince consort Albert, enters the room, checking on her and telling her that her mother is worried. Her mother, Rosa, is the most powerful leader in the country. Pride rarely meets her mother due to Rosa's duties as queen, but she knows there is another reason. She asks Albert about her younger sister, aware that her sister is the protagonist named Tyra. Albert wonders how she knows this and suspects she possesses the power of precognition, the same power Rosa has. This leads him to start seeing her as the genuine crown princess. However, Pride knows this scene is not supposed to unfold this way. Albert tells her to rest as he leaves the room, and Pride recalls that people in the kingdom can be born with special abilities. The power of precognition is highly valued and fit for a monarch, so those with this ability are chosen to succeed the throne. Even in the game, her character displays this ability by correctly guessing she has a sister, marking her as a worthy successor. However, Pride knows her situation is different because, as the game's final boss, she is destined to be convicted and die. She is aware of a bad ending where either Tara or her love interest dies, but she doesn't want to force this ending because she knows Tara and her love interests are good people, while her character is pure evil. At that moment, she remembers something and quickly gets off her bed, asking the maids about her father. The maids tell her he left to report to the queen. She opens the window and calls out to Albert as she hops onto the window ledge. The maids try to stop her, but she tells them not to interfere. Pride warns Albert not to ride the carriage, saying it has a broken wheel that will cause an accident. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind causes her to fall, but a servant grabs her, saving her in the nick of time. The maids immediately begging for forgiveness, reminding Pride that her character punished the maids and even gave them the death penalty. This realization makes her cry as she apologizes to the maids, shocking them. Albert enters the room, asking if the servants did something wrong, but she insists it's her fault and tells him not to punish them. Later that day, Albert informs her that she will meet Tyra on her 6th birthday, and that he needs to adopt a younger brother to serve as an assistant. The next day, as she walks around the castle, the servants whisper about how she has changed. She contemplates denying everything because she feels different from the Pride in the game. However, she realizes both her parents are still alive, unlike in the game, and wonders if she can change the story in this world. Albert introduces her to her younger brother-in-law, Stale, one of the love interests in the game, and explains that he will act as her assistant. Stale, who has a teleportation ability, is wearing handcuffs to suppress it because he tried to run away multiple times. Albert tells her that Stale will enter a contract of subordination with her tomorrow, making the handcuffs unnecessary. Pride remembers how her character tricked Stale into signing a contract of fealty instead, giving her absolute control over him and making him her slave. She worries they are following the game's storyline and fears she can't change it. That evening, she visits Stale's room and asks if he wants to see his mother. Stale becomes emotional as Pride shows him the key to his handcuffs, which she secretly took from Albert's desk. Pride is about to remove the handcuffs, but Stale explains that he and his mother would be punished if he escapes. He recounts how he had only 2 weeks with his mother before being sent to the castle, crying when they parted but managing a proper goodbye. He fears another child would replace him if he escaped, not wanting anyone to suffer his fate, so he resolves to forget his mother and serve Pride. Pride, moved by his goodness, remembers how her character manipulated him into killing his own mother. and she becomes emotional, telling him to sleep well as she leaves. The following day, they sign the contract, and Stale's handcuffs are removed as Albert welcomes him to the family. Stale tells Pride he looks forward to being by her side and protecting her, addressing her as the princess. Pride tells him not to be so formal since they are now family, but her father's assistant, Chancellor Gilbert, advises Stale to address her formally in public. Gilbert acknowledges Pride's precognition ability, noting she has become a fine vessel for a queen. Pride then takes Stale around the house, showing him the library and encouraging him to use it whenever he wishes. Later, Pride sees Stale holding on to some books, but he suddenly collapses, breathing heavily. He is caught a cold and starts crying, remembering his mother. Pride realizes how much he has endured, even working hard to learn the ways of the castle. Reflecting on her character's cruelty to Stale, she starts crying. Stale, concerned, asks what's wrong, and Pride hugs him, apologizing for not being able to help him more and expressing her wish for him to be with his mother. She promises never to hurt him, wanting to make everyone smile, and tells Stale to kill her if she ever becomes a deplorable queen. That night, she ends up sleeping in his room as Stale resolves to protect her. A flashback from the game shows Stale attempting to kill Pride after being forced to kill his mother. Pride mocks him, saying he can't kill her because of the contract of fealty. Stale, devastated, asks why his mother had to die, and Pride cruelly reveals it was for her amusement. She forbids him from taking his own life, and as he falls to his knees, she laughs at him, fueling his determination for revenge. Back in their world, Stale wakes up from a dream he can't fully remember and prepares for his next lecture, realizing he has brought Pride's handkerchief with him. He recalls the moment they shared and the painful memory of his mother receiving the official notice. She had begged them not to take him, saying she didn't need the money. Her expression then mirrored the kindness he saw in Pride. Stale had initially planned to manipulate Pride, believing he could change the country's rules by becoming her favorite assistant and exemplary regent. But her plea to kill her if she became a deplorable queen left him puzzled about her fears. At that moment, Pride arrives and asks him to come with her. She takes him to Albert, who gives him an envelope, explaining it is an exception made for him. Inside, Stale finds a letter from his mother, expressing her joy at being able to exchange letters with him and wishing him well. Overwhelmed, Stale bursts into tears as Albert explains this was done at Pride's request. Albert adds that his mother will receive a fixed amount every month and be allowed to send one letter each month, though Stale can only send one letter a year. Pride hugs him, telling him they all love him. Stale, deeply moved, wonders why Pride fears becoming a deplorable queen when she is so kind. He vows to protect her with his life, determined to repay her kindness. Later, as Stale contemplates what to write in his letter, he overhears people discussing Pride's supposed selfishness. Stale looks out the window, unable to see or hear clearly. He uses his teleportation ability, hiding behind a bush to eavesdrop more effectively. He sees Chancellor Gilbert with a group of men who start talking about Stale, claiming he must feel ashamed because Pride looks down on him. Stale knows this is a lie. Gilbert appears to be spreading these rumors to make people question Pride's eligibility for the throne. Stale returns to his room, planning to report Gilbert, but he doubts anyone will believe him as he is now. Realizing he needs more than just courage, Stale decides he must become craftier and earn more trust than Gilbert. He works on improving himself, aiming to present an outer appearance that will win the nation's favor, determined to protect Pride from deceitful adults. Stale's loyalty to Pride is unwavering, and he will not let anyone but her become queen. Meanwhile, Rosa tells Tyra that she will meet Pride and Stale at her birthday celebration tomorrow. Tyra becomes nervous, unsure if they will like her. The next day, nobles gather for Tyra's birthday celebration, clapping as Pride and Stale make their entrance. Stale introduces himself to Rosa, expressing his honor to be part of the family and promising to assist Pride as the next regent, earning the admiration of the nobles. Albert and Tyra also make their entrance, and Pride remembers how Tara is supposed to join her love interests to overthrow her character, serving as the country's only light during her rule. The nobles note Tyra's resemblance to Rosa, and Pride feels a pang of jealousy because they never said that about her. Despite her jealousy, she finds Tyra cute and resolves not to torment her. Albert introduces Tyra to her siblings, and Pride looks forward to getting to know her. Tyra is pleased to meet her, calling her big sister, and Pride finds her endearing, as expected from the likable protagonist of the game. Stale introduces himself, saying it's an honor to become her older brother, but Pride notices he isn't addressing her as the princess. He expresses his desire to work with Tyra to support Pride, and Tyra agrees. The nobles are pleased, and Pride realizes that Stale is making a move to show the entire country that she is the future queen. The siblings join hands, and Pride declares that they will protect the country and its people, prompting cheers from the nobles. Rosa tells Pride not to forget this moment, reminding her that they have high expectations. Rosa then informs everyone that Pride's precognition ability has blossomed, recognizing her as the next in line to the throne. After that, Gilbert approaches them, complimenting Tyra's appearance and lamenting that she didn't gain the precognition ability, as she could have been a contender for the throne. Stale interrupts, asking Gilbert what he means. Gilbert admits he was being rude and comments on how Stale now looks like a member of the royal family. He wants to discuss Stale's commoner background, but Stale asserts that he has come this far because of Pride and intends to continue serving her alongside Tyra, displaying a passive-aggressive tone. Gilbert then asks Pride about her views on the country's politics and inquires about others with the same ability. Suddenly, Albert smacks Gilbert on the head and drags him away. Pride reflects that Stale resembles Gilbert, which shocks him and plunges him into despair because he dislikes Gilbert. Rosa and Albert discuss Pride, noting how much she has changed since awakening her abilities. Rosa reveals she had bad premonitions about Pride, but now those visions no longer seem likely because of the changes in her. Rosa is surprised that only a month has passed since Stale joined the family, yet he is willing to go to such lengths for Pride. A commander named Rodri approaches Pride, expressing how deeply moved he was by her words and congratulating her on being recognized as the next in line to the throne. He mentions wanting her to meet his son in the future, and Pride looks forward to it. Rosa comments that the future seems to have changed, but Albert reassures her that Pride will make a great queen,